service that'll keep them going throughout a wintry night, snatching sleep on a desktop or hard floor until all the roads are clear and the public can move when it awakes. Few have the ability to commit men and machines to battle at the right time, to call for the combinations of materials that'll do the job to spur men beyond their physical endurance until the fight is won. The average citizen knows little of the sacrifices snow fighters make to let him commute as usual or go to the store or weekly bowling league without a hitch. Fewer yet appreciate the fact that those men are in the business of saving lives. End of quote. The maintenance crews of the New Jersey State Highway Department and the men who direct them have the responsibility of keeping some of the nation's busiest highways open during the snow and ice season. They can never be sure of a holiday or a weekend during the winter season. We hope you do appreciate the job they do. Do you have any idea of the size of the oil refining industry in this country that produces the gas and oil for your car and the millions of other cars, buses, and trucks? There are 280 refineries in 40 of the United States, owned by 140 independent companies. They produce nearly 9 million barrels of crude oil daily. Putting a microscope to those figures, we see that there are 8 refineries in New Jersey producing 550,000 barrels of crude oil daily. Not bad for a state with no oil wells to boast of. And it's reported that cowboys in Dodge City, Kansas now head for the roundup with motorcycles instead of horses. It's said that motorcycles are suitable for the cow trails and can operate on about $1.50 worth of gasoline per week, while fuel bills for the hay burner come to about $12 weekly. So I suppose we're now seeing the passing of another era of the Old West. Could it be that Steve McQueen will replace Marshall Dillon in Gunsmoke? Our state highways are designed and built for the convenience of all, to make driving safer and more enjoyable. Use them, but do exercise care and observe the laws that have been enacted for your protection. And that's today's Spotlight on Highways, brought to you by the New Jersey State Highway Department and this station as a public service. Be with us again next time we look at the Garden State from a highway point of view. The New Jersey State Highway Department presents Spotlight on Highways. So join us now as we bring you some reflections on the movement of people and goods in the Garden State. It has been said that progress is often accompanied by inconveniences, and this is certainly true in highway building. You see, we all know we can't build a new highway overnight. With the many problems involved, even a short stretch may take years, and it must be built in stages. In New Jersey, monies are allocated by legislation on a year-to-year basis, so construction must be planned with this in mind. So when a portion of a new route is completed, say Interstate 80, you want to ride it, right? But it will, in many instances, not be a long ride before you're forced onto an older route. So the thing to remember as you travel the high-speed superhighway is to pay close attention to signs that warn you of its approaching end and that you'll need to adjust your speed. Attention to those signs just may save your life. In a few short years, you'll be able to travel these routes from end to end. But for now, you must put up with inconveniences occasioned by progress. Farmers are getting into the highway safety movement, and I mean lots of farmers. The National Grange and American Farm Bureau Federation have adopted broad highway policies to make driving safer and to improve highway transportation. At its 98th annual convention in Atlantic City, the Grange called for more state police officers, an improved high school driver education program, better control of excessive speeding, compulsory motor vehicle inspection, and a uniform system of traffic signals and signs throughout the nation. The farmers know that ain't hay, but they want it. And what's more, the Grangers have some definite ideas which they unanimously adopted at their convention. In short, they favor interstate compacts for safety equipment and driver licensing. They oppose any changes in the original plans of the 41,000-mile interstate highway system, except where needed to implement the program. They oppose any diversion of federal or state highway user tax funds. And they support the maintenance of records showing positive identification of all motor vehicle drivers involved in traffic accidents. At its 48th annual convention in Philadelphia, the Farm Bureau Federation also called for continued driver education, and they opposed diversion of highway user funds, and called for legislation to allocate state highway funds according to need. Well, it was bound to happen. With the new interstate system bringing the rural areas closer to the cities, we just can't keep the farmer down on the farm anymore. But wherever he is, we're with him in that action to make our highways safer. Now comes this word. Oil companies and service stations are directing more of their sales efforts to the women. One oil dealer in Chicago invites housewives to a weekly grease pit seminar to acquaint them with car care. Another in Tulsa has a trained hostess who dispenses similar information. For example, an oil filter change is as necessary as cleaning out old grounds from your coffee pot. Oil companies say women are less concerned with prices than men, but more particular about station appearance. For this reason, in North Carolina, oil jobber hires a woman to inspect restrooms and recommend feminine decor. More gasoline and tire ads are slanted toward the females. Well, it's estimated that today, 43% of all drivers are women, and by 1970 will likely rise to 51%, so it would seem there is good judgment in this new approach by oil companies. Who says it's a man's world? Not I. Our state highways are designed and built for the convenience of all, to make driving safer and more enjoyable. Use them, but do exercise care and observe the laws that have been enacted for your protection. And that's today's Spotlight on Highways, brought to you by the New Jersey State Highway Department and this station as a public service. Be with us again next time we look at the Garden State from a highway point of view. The New Jersey State Highway Department presents Spotlight on Highways. So join us now as we bring you some reflections on the movement of people and goods in the Garden State. Things are looking up for New Jersey. This word comes from the Penn Jersey Transportation Report released recently. According to Penn Jersey, there'll be a 7% increase in industrial employment by 1975, a 41% increase in office employment, a 35% increase in commercial employment, and a 35% increase in all other types of employment. Now, all these increases won't take place in the Garden State. Philadelphia and surrounding counties will get a share. But according to Penn Jersey, a goodly portion of employment increases will take place in New Jersey in the counties of Mercer, Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester. Incidentally, new housing in New Jersey will be greater than on the Pennsylvania side of the Penn Jersey study area. The study shows a predicted population increase by 1975 of 720,000 people. Another angle of this is the transportation problems. There'll be a corresponding increase in motor vehicles, an estimated 460,000 additional cars, trucks, and buses on our roads and streets, which means the mass transportation industry must come up with some new, high-speed, comfortable transportation, or the roads will be choked and no one will get to his destination. But come now, faint heart, have courage. That's what the Penn Jersey Transportation Study is all about, to find out what will be expected in the future, and to make plans now to meet the demands for transportation, housing, and all the services which will be needed in this complex life of ours. Incidentally, your New Jersey State Highway Department is a working partner in the Penn Jersey Compact. The president of one of the leading automobile corporations has labeled as senseless the debate over whether mass transit or greater access for automobiles can best relieve the chaotic congestion of American cities. In reality, he said, a combination of various kinds of mass transit and private automobiles will be needed to meet the serious transportation problems of the next 15 years. In any case, he concluded, the automobile will not supplant rail lines as a means of getting people to and from the central city. Now, no one realizes the truth of these remarks more than New Jersey state highway officials who have long striven for a system of balanced transportation in the state. They know that both rail and rubber are necessary for the movement of people and goods in urban areas. We have, by the way, a booklet called Why New Jersey Works for Balanced Transportation. If you're interested, just call or write the Bureau of Public Information, State Highway Department, Trenton, and we'll be glad to send it to you. This you may not realize, but when the interstate system of highways is completed, it'll include only 1% of our total highway mileage, yet will carry 20% of all highway traffic. It'll touch principal cities in 49 of the 50 states and save the taxpayers an estimated $11 billion annually. New Jersey will have a bit more than 373 miles of these routes, and they're located where they'll take much of the heavy burden from many other routes that are today carrying traffic beyond their designed capacity. Best of all, when the interstate system is completed in 1972, it will all be paid for. We won't owe for one bag of cement or one slab of steel. Don't you wish you handled your family budget that way? Our state highways are designed and built for the convenience of all, to make driving safer and more enjoyable. Use them, but do exercise care and observe the laws that have been enacted for your protection. And that's today's Spotlight on Highways, brought to you by the New Jersey State Highway Department and this station as a public service. Be with us again next time we look at the Garden State from a highway point of view. The New Jersey State Highway Department presents Spotlight on Highways. So join us now as we bring you some reflections on the movement of people and goods in the Garden State. Leaders of the computer industry are planning broader use of their service, so reports read. They note that their service is now being used to plan highway routes and construction. And one company says it's now doing research on computer-regulated controls to speed metropolitan traffic. But in the case of highway alignment, one expert has this to say, and we quote in part. A designer may feed into the computer a number of different alignments, and the machine will compile the construction cost of each. In this manner, it's possible to compare a vast number of possible lines to determine which one is most economical. But on the other hand, an experienced designer could have discarded many of the alignments by inspection. The machine does not determine which is the best location for the highway, which alignment serves traffic best, which location blends the highway to the terrain, or any of a number of other factors which the human designer is conscious of in selecting the location. End of quote. It's for these reasons that while the New Jersey State Highway Department makes use of computers in some phases of its alignment studies, the human factors not available in a machine largely determine the department's decision as to proper location. Although the manufacturers of small cars will scream, "Statistical hogwash," it's been proved that small cars are more dangerous than standard-sized cars. A research team at Cornell University reports a 2-year study shows that the smaller the car, the more severe the injury to occupants under comparable accident conditions. The report adds that occupants of small cars had a 20% higher rate of severe accidents and 50% more fatal accidents than occupants of standard-sized cars under similar circumstances. Medium-sized cars, about 75% from Detroit, 25% from overseas, fared only slightly better than the small cars. The Cornell researchers compiled accident reports from 12,800 injury-producing vehicles in rural motor vehicle accidents in 28 states. Details of the findings show that a major part of the difference in risk between small and standard-sized cars was that persons in the small cars were thrown out of the vehicle 63% more frequently in collisions. We don't want to belabor the point or sound anti-small car. We're not. Actually, the whole trouble can be eliminated if all of us, in big and small cars, would drive with care all the time. You know, Americans have a reputation for being wasteful, but sometimes we lose sight of just how wasteful. For instance, in 1963, the cost of accidents of all kinds was $16.1 billion. Wages lost due to temporary impairment amounted to $4.7 billion. When you remember that most accidents are caused by carelessness, you can see we toss a lot of money away. And in closing, we'd like to quote remarks from Abraham Lincoln, whose birthday we celebrate this month. Quote, "If I were to read, much less answer all the attacks made on me, this shop might as well be closed for all other business. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing this to the very end. If the end brings me out all right, what has been said against me won't amount to anything. If the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference." Unquote. That can be very true of many men in public office today, can't it? Our state highways are designed and built for the convenience of